Yeah, I agree. Let's move on to Brazil. Colombia was described as a wake-up call after the game, right? And it was clear that things needed to change to compete with a team that has the second best odds to win Copa America. I know people online were telling me, "Oh, they're not that good. They're only sixth in CONMEBOL qualifying." They got the second best odds to win Copa America. I don't care what they're doing. That means that this team is somebody that we cannot take lightly. Um, and I know that people like to really rag on Greg and all the stuff, blame him for everything. But I think he got this game spot on. The response was really, really good. I'd like to hear your take on that.
I mean, if we're being honest, we had no business winning this game. I mean, yeah, you can make the argument that like, sure, tactically, he got a result out of a game that we had no business getting a result out of, and maybe you can give him credit for that. But 9 times out of 10, we're losing this game based on how that game plays out. I mean, I could see SofaScore has this like cool little attacking momentum chart that they have in there, and almost the entirety of the game is the chart is in Brazil's territory. So I mean, yes, the scoreline finishes 1-1, but if this is a game in Copa America, I mean, the reality is that Brazil probably beats us 9 times out of 10. And either, I mean, I guess in this case would knock us out because Brazil's not in the group, so it wouldn't be a group stage game. Um, and you can, obviously you can make the argument that like Brazil is still at a level above even where we should be. Like Brazil is a whole different beast. It's a top five team in 99% out of the time, and they're completely stacked, and they have so many even like good young players coming through the system. And even where the US should be is probably still a level below that. And so to get a draw against them is a good result. And I think a lot of people were happy with it. I'm happy with it as well. But reality is we still weren't able to win the game, and we got outplayed by a lot. And realistically, if we replayed the game again, I think we'd probably lose. I mean, they had 25 shots compared to
Oh
our
yeah,
12. And
listen,
then Turner stood on his head. This is the only
yeah.
reason why it was 1-1.
And people say that a lot, like, oh, the this team wouldn't have won if it wasn't for the goalkeeper. There's a reason you put the goalkeeper in the team so that he keeps the ball out of the net for the other team shooting, right? That's his job. So he did his job. He did well. Were
Yeah,
we
but that
lucky?
doesn't mean
Sure.
that he's going to be putting in
Were
this
we
performance every single game.
no, were we lucky? Sure. I'm not saying that we bossed him, but we played really like that first half, we controlled the first half. Right. So things that I noticed that changed, right? It was a wake-up call, it needed some change. Pressing shape changed, right? Versus Colombia, it was like a 4-5-1 mid block. We talked about, limiting the space between the lines. When they went into Brazil, they kept the 4-3-3 shape. Pulisic and Weah stayed higher. They put the back line under a bit more pressure, and they forced passes that Brazil didn't want to play. Right, pressing cues were more precise, and they went as a team. It wasn't individual pressing. It looked really good. They also limited their attacking. I guess what's the proper term for it? Right, like they didn't try to get into that in possession attacking shape as quickly, right? Where Robinson and Scally in this case bomb up the wings, and then you get overloads on the outside, and you're really playing with two center backs, the six, and then everybody else is advanced, right? That didn't really happen. You saw them holding back a little bit more, which means that less moments in transition. The transition defense was better when it did happen, and they took less risks. They closed the space, and they defended well in the first half, right? They still tried to create chances through wide play, but it looked a lot less like they were just hitting hopeless crosses. And you saw people like Pulisic and Weah cutting inside more, combining with Gio Reyna finding the ball a bit deeper, which some people think that shouldn't happen because he needs to be higher on the field. It's where he makes more contributions. Depends on the game, right? You need your best players to find the ball. So if we're not getting it to them, let them find it. I mean, you already spoke a little bit about the performances, but did you know? I guess as a non tactical kind of mind, for lack of a better term. Like, I'm not saying you don't know the game, but you see the game differently than I did. Did you notice the changes like this? Did you notice something different when you watched it?
Are you talking about like first half or second half? Or are you talking
No,
about
Colombia versus Brazil, like the things that changed to get the result that we had.
probably not to the level of detail that you're able to notice things at? I mean, I would think like obviously you could tell like if the team is playing more possession, if they want to play more counterattack. I don't think you need to be like a soccer specialist to understand that kind of stuff.
Right.
But in terms of like seeing certain runs happening or certain like link ups happening between players, I don't think that I would necessarily be able to spot that as easily. So that would probably be harder to tell. I mean, it's clear just based off possession numbers that it was a little bit of a different tactical approach this game versus Colombia, where Colombia we had more of the ball and we're the ones getting counterattacked, and in this case, we had less of the ball, and it seems like we're I don't want to say necessarily like counterattacking in the same way of Colombia, but doing more with less of the ball is kind of more, I think, the tactical approach against Brazil here.
All right. That's exactly the answer I wanted from you, like to see what you saw differently, but I phrased it really, really poorly. So I apologize for that. But
Oh, you're fine.
that's exactly what I was trying to ask you. Like, what did you see differently between the two? Which is great. Um, but yeah, again, we start on the front foot. We dominated the first half, right? We're on the front foot within 4 minutes.
I wouldn't say dominated the first half.
We absolutely dominated the first half.
No,
Yeah, we absolutely did.
I would disagree.
Okay. You're allowed.
They had more shots, more big chances, more passes,
That's okay.
more possession.
We looked better than them in the first half. That is what
I wouldn't necessarily disagree, but at the same time, if our level is here and Brazil's level is here, and we're doing better and they're doing worse, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're better.
I'm not saying we were better. I'm saying in the first 45, I thought we were the better team. The stats may tell you something differently, but to the eye test, we were the better team. Now, again, that's not in the first 45 minutes, the ball never left their half and we dominated them. Right. But in the flow of the game.
You said the word dominated.
No. I'm saying in the flow of the game overall, right? What I'm saying is in the first 45 minutes, I'm not saying by the term dominate, I'm not saying we never let them out of their half and we crushed them like they were bullies in the Gold Cup. What I'm saying is over the span of the 45 minutes, though Brazil had their chances, we had ours. I think we were the better group. That's what I'm saying.
I would just say we were competitive then. I wouldn't necessarily say
we weren't. Yes, we were competitive, but we were better. Again, opinions, right? But sure. Again, in the first 4 minutes, Yunus Musa was millimeters away from scoring the goal of his life.
Yeah, but like he's not doing that.
I'm not done. I'm not
done.
So
we shouldn't rely on that.
Cutting me off.
I will cut you off.
Pulisic took over the game, right? Cutting in from the inside and creating many, many more chances. Working well with the combination of Brazil sitting in and thinking that they were going to play for counterattack. Brazil watched that game against Colombia, and you could tell they sat in and they were like, okay, we're gonna let those wing backs get high. We're gonna time our press right. We're gonna win the ball, and then we're gonna attack open spaces. And we didn't let that happen because we changed the way we played, which was really, really good. I thought we were the better team for the first 15 minutes until Matt Turner decided to launch a ball upfield while we were playing out of the back, misses target, and then everybody was out of position during a counterattack. Right? That's the way I took that. Did you see the video that came out of the guy like videotaping his TV?
I don't know.
I'll send it to you as I talk about it, but I feel like we need to cover it because it's kind of ridiculous. So I'll describe it as you watch it, but you're going to want to keep it quiet. The guy yells a lot. So the video gets posted, and it's this guy videotaping his TV and screaming like, Berhalter is making them play back when we could have done a counterattack. What's he doing? We need to get this guy out because he's ruining the way we play the game. Anybody who watched that video, like who understands what's happening right in the game, knows that's not what he's doing, right? He's recording himself yelling at his TV that Berhalter's forcing him to play back when they want to go upfield. Ream receives the ball with a ton of space in front of him, right? He's looking to connect to his central midfielder or his number 9 checking in. Now, the problem is they both checked into the space at the same time, right? From there, you instantly don't want to play because now you got 2 guys who are going to get in each other's way, and there are 5 different Brazilian players around them who are going to close that space and win the ball back, and then you get countered, right? So instead, he goes out to Jedi Robinson. His only 2 options are to play into Pepe, who again is surrounded by 3 different players and is you can see every one of them are like, please play him the ball because I want to step on him so hard and win that ball back. Or play it backwards and be patient, right? So they play it backwards as I'm watching it now on the side here. They play it backwards. It gets into Tim Ream's feet, and the entire back line is spread. The number 6 is coming in. It looks like a training exercise, right? That is the way I would train my group. to say, when we get the ball at the goalkeeper's feet, this is the way we should look. Center backs wide, wing backs high, six comes into the space to create some extra balance, right? The problem is Brazil had stepped up higher, right? They closed the space a little bit, and possessing out of that would have been a little difficult. So Matt Turner decides, I'm going to go long. Sure, that's fine. He mishits the ball and it comes down the other way, right? If Turner just kicked the ball 4 feet over his head, this whole thing isn't even a conversation. But because in the one clip, after the players have already made the decision that, oh, I can't go forward here, otherwise I'm going to lose the ball, and Greg Berhalter says, hey, maybe look backwards, you have options there, it's like Greg Berhalter's ruining this team. And again, I'm not saying he's the Lord and Savior of the U.S. men's national team, but cherry picking stuff like this kills me. And this is why I can't be on USMNT Twitter. It just kills me.
I think it's a good summation of how like the Twitter USMNT fan usually will feel about games and Greg, and nitpicking everything that goes wrong. I think everything gets watched through like a or everything goes through like a fine-tooth comb. I think is I don't know if I'm saying the saying correctly, but yeah, I think I would also not necessarily blame that on Greg. I do think that's almost a factor of Turner not being a very good goalkeeper at playing the ball out of the back and playing with his feet. And I don't know how you can necessarily blame that on Greg in this case. I mean, Greg's not the one in goal kicking the ball.
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole thing. Like this guy, Zach Proctor, I'm just looking at comments here. He did a really good job. That he was describing kind of what was going wrong, just exactly what we just spoke about, right? Players checking into the wrong spaces, decision making on the time. And again, the goalkeeper gets the ball and the movement, the movement too, after he gets the ball the second time is very lackluster, right? You're not seeing players check into space. You're not seeing players try and get into open areas, and they're just letting Brazil cut all the passing lanes. So at that point, you really don't have a choice.
Yeah, that's also fair too. That's fair.
So again, I'm looking at this. I'm not out here saying like I could be the next U.S. men's national team coach because I can break down a clip like this. But anybody who can break down a clip like this can discern the difference between a coach who is doing too much and a coach who is just trying to give different tips, right? Again, Greg probably doesn't do I think Greg's on the other side of not doing enough. He keeps it almost too simple at times. That clip is not a Greg Berhalter is ruining this team clip, right? You can go through any of the 4, 5, 6, 7 bad losses we've had in the last year, and you can pick out clips like that actually show what you're trying to show here.
Yeah.
But again, from that point, the game slows down a bit, but USMNT still feels like they're in it. They're controlling some of the game, not all of it. There's a counter attack chance from Brazil, probably because we failed to play out of the back. And then the Pulisic free kick that levels the game, right? You don't hit them better than that. After the first half, I'm sitting here thinking, man, we look really good. Mm-hmm. Again, I understand this isn't the Brazil of old, right? This isn't the Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, Neymar. I know they all didn't play at the same time, but like those sorts of players weren't at that level, and I get that. But we're also not at that level. We need to accept that. I think that we are not at the level of those sorts of teams, meaning that this is still a good performance for us. And then the second half happened, right? And you mentioned it already, I think, about the heat maps and stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, the second half attacking momentum chart has like 6 bars in the US's favor. I almost want to say it's a bar per minute or something like that. And then every other bar is in Brazil's half. Like it was just very clearly fully dominated by Brazil.
Correct.
I mean, and to your point, if the first half, which I'm not saying the first half is a bad first half. It seems to be like it was more a bit more back and forth. I mean, certainly compared to the second half, but if you're gonna like come into the locker room and be like, all right, we had a good first half, we're coming in level, like we're going back and forth, we're getting our chances. I don't know why you don't stick with that in the second half or like tweak it so that you can continue to push. Like it's a friendly. Why are we just like sitting in and absorbing pressure the entire second half and not like doing anything unless unless you're saying that like Brazil just played the second half like perfectly, except for just putting the ball in the net and didn't give like the US any opportunities to have like any sort of momentum. But like it's a friendly. Like what are we holding out for a 1-1 result for a friendly? Like why not try to go for the win? Test things out, like you said. Like that was the whole point of the Colombia game, test things out. I mean, I kind of get it from like Craig's perspective because if this game was also like 5-1, I'm sure they would literally never hear the end of it, regardless of whether or not it was just like late goals padding the score line. But I wish there was a bit more to the like attacking momentum in the second half. Like they had 17 shots in the second half. That's crazy. 17 shots in a half.
Yep. And we we tried to counter a little bit and it was okay. But really they just absorbed for 45 minutes, right? It was an onslaught. It had a lot of missed chances, right? If this Brazil's team is on form, if they have player, I don't know if they were missing a couple, Neymar being hurt, missing Everton legend Richarlison probably didn't help them either. Um, Sorry, did I slide that in there? Like I said, different players probably make this a different story. You're right. 9 out of 10 times we don't even tie this game, we lose this game. And I'm not disagreeing with you there. Right. But the thing I take from this is the fact that for 45 minutes, we had to absolutely mentally grind to get this result. Right. Redemption of Matt Turner after a poor first half, giving the ball away for the goal, as well as a not so good Colombia game, right? He needed a half to show us. I think I mentioned it in the group. I was like, I am not sure about Matt Turner. Like, I don't know if he's the guy. I don't know, what he, if somebody else can do better than him. He proved me wrong in that second half, right? He is massive. And again, that's not to say that the US didn't have chance of their own, right? The Pulisic chance around 70 minutes, Allison did really well to keep that out on a counterattack. And then the Aronson chance late in the game that could have gone in and changed the game, right? It ends 1-1, and everybody's like, oh, we got lucky because Matt Turner made 10 saves. Yeah, yeah. But we also hit the bar. Pulisic had a chance that he probably should have tucked away that missed. Aronson should have put his chance away. And then Pulisic also missed 90 minutes. He missed the post by a couple of inches. So it's not like saying we got thoroughly outplayed. We got outplayed, right? Um, you know, I, maybe I'm an optimist, right? Maybe I take the most of everything and take the positives over the negative because that's how I was raised as a player, right? You're always going to have goods and bads, but if you only focus on the bads, then you're never going to be able to work on the goods or keep the goods, right? So I like to find the goods in the sea of bad, right? Because I'm not out here saying that these are perfect results. There are obviously problems, right? And we're going to talk about that in the next section of what we're kind of worried about here. Um, but these are exercises against top opponents who showed the best of what we might go up against in Copa America. It highlighted our tactical issues, which is what we needed against good teams. We found some strengths. We highlighted some players who maybe might not be up for the challenge next week, right? Maybe these guys have gone from the third, the first guy off the bench in their position, and maybe the second or third, right? But regardless of results, there are good things to take away from this as well as the bads. And I think that's the problem I have with people who watch these games is all they worry about are the bad. It's like, oh my God, if we don't get Greg out right now, nothing's ever going to get better. There are goods in this too, right? You need to be able to take and enjoy them too. Because if you're just watching a game and a team just to be miserable and complain for 90 minutes, sort of life is that, man. I enjoy the game. I like to watch it and enjoy the good parts of it. I will feel bad about the bad parts. Don't get me wrong. I'll be upset about it. The 5-1 loss didn't, I didn't come out and be like, oh yeah, 5-1 and we scored a goal. No. Oh, shit. But at the end of the day, there are still goods and bads from everything. You need to be able to balance and analyze them all from a coaching standpoint, right? Right. The coaching staff, but also as a fan, like, yeah, you can go around and be like, okay, we lost, but if we come back and then we tie Brazil, don't come at me and be like, oh, Brazil aren't even that good or anything. You're not allowed to enjoy this. End of the day, it's a game, guys. Relax.
I mean, there's only so much good and bad you can analyze before you just have to focus on the end result. Because like if we're in Copa America and we get out of the group stage, you go into the first knockout, you could play as great as you want. If you lose that game in penalties or you just flat out lose that game, no matter how good you played, at the end of the day, that's extremely disappointing. It doesn't matter if we dominated the game. It doesn't matter if we looked like second half Brazil against us. If we lose that game, that's extremely disappointing. And it's a knock against the team and the coach. So, like, yes, I get it. You want to like focus on good things and have a little bit of encouragement and something to look forward to. But I also don't think like I think we have to address the issue of this team like not being able to win these games against opponents that we need to be able to beat. These are the level of teams that we need to be competing against both in Copa America and in the 2026 World Cup. Like if we want to finally like get past that hurdle of the round of 16 in the World Cup, or I don't know what the new thing is going to look like now with the new format of the World Cup, but whatever it is, if we want to advance deep into the World Cup, we're going to have to eventually start beating these teams. And we've just shown like even if we have good moments against these teams, we've shown incapable of getting the final score line.
Mr. Wright, that is such a good transition into my last point here.
That's because I'm reading your notes right now.
I figured you've hacked into my computer somehow. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what you were doing
I
when
do
you
that
were
often. I often hack into your
restarting your
computer.
computer.
Uh-huh. And
Um,
when I'm typing my notes, I'm actually just copying and pasting yours.
listen,